So, welcome to this tutorial. The goal here is to show how to increase productivity, how to simplify user interface programming by generating macro functions that are able to connect directly to structures. So, let's imagine we have defined in TwinCat a structure which might look like this. So it's called struct test visu and contains of these following elements of these attributes, and we use in our macro object a couple of these attributes that all come from the same structure. So this might look like this. We have an edit field which uses the first element of the structures and some more, and the complete name consists of the driver, the structure name, and the respective attribute. The goal is to create a macro which has a dialog, and this dialog is able to filter out all the fitting elements only, so I can just select a structure element which then will be used by this dialog and initialized to this instance of this macro. So how can such a thing be done with SpiderControl? We will start by implementing the macro function as we want it to have. So we will, in this case, I will just use 4 edit fields which show various elements of this structure. I will add each single variable from the respective structure using the standard dialog. So the first thing will be the element containing the class type of this thing, and we will continue by adding the respective variables for a number of pieces, good pieces and bad pieces. We will then copy this macro as we have developed it so far to another page and adding other features. So how does this thing work? The idea is that we define a driver, and this driver has assigned a variable list. This is this TPY file by TwinCat. Scanning of these TPY files might take some considerable time, so the idea what we've made is we would like to fasten this search for the structures that we are looking for, and therefore we have created a concept which allows you to press on a button which will start this parsing, which might take some time, because if the TPY file is big, it will take a couple of seconds up to a minute. To tell the editor what kind of variables, what kind of structures that we are looking for, we have to modify an XML file. This XML file is seen here, plc mpr config XML. It is found in the installation directory of the HMI editor, and what we have to do is to add for each structure that we want to find such an XML element and to add the name. So this is the name of the structure that we are actually looking for, struct test visu. This is the name. We add this to this XML file, and now after restarting the editor, it will be able to find out, to search for all the elements, the structure elements that we want. This is step 1. The next step will continue on the macro itself. So first is we copy it to another page and start modifying the name of all the variables that are in there. At this moment we use this explicit dereferencing of the variable name, so drive 0, struct test visu, and then the respective attributes or members of this structure. And we will now replace this explicitly naming by a symbolic naming using an indexed container variable. This is done like that. We select the complete macro so far, go to the crossref dialog, and we would like to make now an exchange of incomplete selection. We will exchange the name of dereferencing the structure by a construct which looks like what we have below here. So it's an indexed container variable addressing. It works like that it begins with this @sign, @co underscore, and then comes the name of the container variable, which will be used to carry the name of the instance of our macro instance in future. It has a postfix called _intco point, which will create, when making an instance of this macro, an additional timestamp, so making each instance of your macro unique. So this is necessary. You will have to define the name for your container variable and add this intco postfix and finish everything with the @. And now we will replace the complete selection, which will then use the indexed addressing in future. So now the complete group has been changed, and we can close crossref and go on with the macro. So the next thing we have to do is to use this container element explicitly in our future macros. So we will use a text field, add the name of this container without the CO indexed addressing, but with its full name, which is test visu instance underscore intcode point. And we'll now also create a rectangle as a background, paint it with a light gray and put it in the background. So this will be the base for our future macro, which is able to show some members of this structure. To achieve the goal to add such a dialog, which is able to show only the respective structure elements, we will have to create first a dialog project. Dialog projects are also generated with our editor, and you have to choose this macro project type. I have prepared such a project before, and we will work on this project. You can download the complete project, which is shown here from our website. So this will also contain this special event painter elements, which you see here, which will be used to set the respective filters. So first thing is that this event painter element will set the filter to our structure name. So what we have to do is to modify this string name to the filter, to the name of the structure that we are looking for. This will, during runtime, write on this internal process point of the editor the name and cause the variable list dialog to filter out for only the structure names that we are looking for. The second field here, which is named one.value, will then be connected to this container variable, which will store the name of the structure that we have chosen with the dialog. So to continue, we'll have to press the build all of this dialog project, and then next is we will return to our main project to integrate the dialog resources and to store our macro. So we will return to the main project. Go on with our macro. So there is one thing missing. To allow the dialog to find the name of this container which will store the name, the structure name, we'll have to give it an index. So using the crossref dialog once again shows all the references, and we are interested in this container. And to make it accessible to the dialog, we'll have to give it an index. So the default index is -1, which means it has no index, it has no address. We will modify in the second row here this -1 to index number 1, because 1 is the number that we used in our dialog. And this will mark the respective element to be modified by the dialog macro during your future use of this element. So we will close that. And next we can go on by inserting our macro into the macro gallery. We'll select it. We'll choose library, save as macro. We'll give it a name. I will call it test visu macro number 2. And now we have to add additional files to this macro file. And these are the files of our dialog, which we've just created in a subdirectory of this main project. We can basically add all of the files which can be found in there, except maybe for this iMaster jar, which is certainly not necessary. So now this ESM archive will contain also the configuration dialog. And now this macro is stored in the library. The editor is modified with our new element, and we'll now test it. We'll create an instance. So it imports the instance, it directly opens our new macro dialog. It filters out all the structures that we're interested in. We choose one, and it's done. We have created a new instance of this new macro dialog, and we have connected it to one structure. And when we have a look in a simulator, we can see that effectively at the runtime dereferences the same elements like shown on the first page. To make sure that we really are connected to the same elements, we will compare it to the object we have before. So the elements on the right are just intermediate objects. We will copy our original sources containing the fully explicitly dereferenced value names, and we will compare the contents of this original elements with the context of our macro, which should point to the same structure. So we start the simulator again, and we can see on page 2 that data is the same, and if I modify in one object the contents, it will also be modified in the original text below.